Welcome to the Statesman Talk with me, Anna Chaudhary. We have with us here today Nawab Syed Muhammad Kazim Ali Khan Bahadur Sahab with us, who is an Indian politician and a former member of Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly of India, also known as Naved Mian. Welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you.
So, sir, what has been your primary focus when it comes to Rampur as a constituency and for your people of Rampur?
So, Rampur for me, it's an identity for me, you know. In fact, even when I was studying in the US and I was at Columbia University, I was doing my post-graduation there. And in America, they have this, so your registration numbers, registration plate for your vehicles, you can even have a name, you can have numbers. It varies from state to state. So I was in New Jersey and I could have a maximum of 6 alphabet or a digit number. So my registration plate was Rampur, Rampur. So that's my identity. Even I'm talking about the late 80s. Even at that time, I was not in politics, but I think Rampur was a form of identity for me, you know, as in, I think it comes before my own persona. It's my, where I belong.
Okay.
So that's how it has been for me. When I was not really, personally, I'm a very private person and not in politics, you have to be you have to be an extrovert and outgoing and, mingling with people and everything. And I was just the opposite of that. But because we come from a political family, my father was several times member of parliament from Rampur, my mother twice. So I guess it was something which they expected me to do.
So and choice? Was politics out of choice or compulsion?
I think for me it was compulsion. It was I wasn't interested, So now I think the generation now, they know they're very focused. So if somebody is interested in politics, then they just go in that direction. Our generation was we were very erratic. If we like this, we did that. We like that, we do that. So it was like that. But I was never actually interested in politics. It was something, professionally, I was an architect. I did I was studying there. I was working there. And then I came, from Manhattan to to Uttar Pradesh.
Yeah,
so that was a massive cultural change for me. And I never really gave it a thought. I didn't know कि भाई जीतेंगे हारेंगे, it was like that. And the people, they wanted me to represent them. So my first constituency in Rampur district, at that time we had 4 assembly segments. Now we have 5. But at that time, so my first assembly constituency was Bilaspur, where I won from. So, and that's how I actually got the hang of it. So once I was in it and I was representing them, then I started learning everything about it. But, earlier I was never interested. I used to help my father in his election campaigns from the age of 11. I remember I used to, every election office I was there. But being, campaigning and being a candidate is two totally different things. So that's how it started. And I felt that Rampur, of course, Rampur, when we were the first princely state to merge with the Union of India in 1949, May 1949. And that is the reason why the Prime Minister of India at that time, he brought Gandhiji's ashes to Rampur, where they're still kept even today in Gandhi Samadhi. So, that's how it was. And I always felt that Rampur, even in those days, was it had a very good infrastructure. It was second to Kanpur as far as industry went. But over the years, with, the politicians who had more, their concept was self before service. So everything kind of deteriorated. And now Rampur, we are probably at the bottom of the list. But in the earlier days, we had textile mills, we had paper mills, we had sugar factories, we had a lot of industry. All kind of started by my grandfather, who was the last Nawab, Nawab Ali Khan. So that's how it was.
And so what do you think is the reason for this decline?
I think wrong representation of public representatives.
Okay.
I
Could
think
you
it's
talk a
because
little
of
about
that.
that?
I mean, I'm not going to take any particular names, but over the years, it has been like that.
Okay.
And in general, I think when I started my political career to now, it's like just totally poles apart. And today, even in those days, I used to feel a little uncomfortable. And but I kind of managed and put everything in shape. Today, I just cannot relate to it anymore. So that's why I backed out myself.
And what do you think has changed so drastically? In what aspects would you
See,
say?
priorities have changed.
Okay.
Priorities today, you don't need to work to get elected. Earlier, it used to be, aapne kya kaam kiya hai? What have you done for the people? What development have you given in the constituency? What educational institutions you've set up in the constituency? What amenities, health facilities you've given to the people? What other amenities have you given to the people? Things like that. Today, work doesn't matter at all, unfortunately.
Okay.
It's up to everything is on the hawa. If anti-incumbency plays a role, but I think now it's a wave. Everything is on a wave. A person who like the current, in the last Lok Sabha election, a person who never ever showed his face in Rampur he won just because because of the wave.
Okay. And you think that's a very disturbing trend for
That's sad.
For the nation as a whole,
It is
and not just.
It is.
Okay.
See, what I feel is that, like what we were earlier chatting also, I said that as per the Indian Constitution, a person who's a voter of a particular state, like a voter of Uttar Pradesh, can contest any election from any part of the state. Okay?
Correct.
But for parliament, it is if you are a voter of the country. I think even for parliament, it should have been voter of the state for the simple reason because our country is so diverse. It's multicultural. It's a very diverse country. A person who's a voter in the north, how will he represent the south? Because culturally, languages are different. Everything, all other, cultural ingredients are different.
Of course.
So if you cannot communicate with your electorate, how can you represent your electorate?
Or do justice, even if you
Justice, or how do you know what are their requirements? What do they need? Like when I've been 25 years in UP politics, active politics. There were no 10 to 5. 24/7 you were on call. Even in the middle of the night, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning and petty issues. But when you get their vote or you get their support, you have to, it's a barter system. It takes two hands to clap. So if they are with you, then you have to be with them. You can't say main so raha hu and things like that. That's how it is. That has changed. You have to be it's a 24/7 profession.
Do you think politics has become tougher or easier
Tougher,
now?
Tougher, totally. I don't think I can do it now, It's my time, it was easier. My father's time was, again, issues were different. I think the geopolitical structure, the social structure, everything was very different. And politics was related to that. And since evolution is something which is happening constantly, even in politics, everything has evolved.
Of course.
I won't say for the better, it can be for the worse, but the evolution has taken place.
And do you think there are any particular disturbing trends that have actually taken place in the past?
In the past, see, let me tell you, let's talk about Rampur. Rampur was a princely state, as were many other regions of India, the former ruling states. A ruler was a much better administrator because the ruler was responsible for his subjects. Subjects are what our voters today were subjects then. Yes. they were responsible for it, you know, and directly responsible for it. And for instance, in Rampur, we have a Hindu-Muslim population almost equal, you know. We've never had a communal riot because the rulers, you look at any princely state, the former princely state, no communal riots. We are geographically located. We have Muradabad on one side, Bareilly on the other, Rudrapur on the north. All three cities have constant communal riots. But Rampur is somehow still safe. Yeah.
What do you think makes Rampur special in this aspect? Specifically, how do you
I
think
think it's the mindset of the people. Of course, from generation to generation. Like, I think when the merger happened, 1947, 49, it happened. I think it was a different mindset. My parents' generation, grandparents' generation was a different mindset. Parents again different, mine different, my children different. And it has diluted along the way. You know, that is unfortunate.
Do you think it's happened organically or it has been...
I must tell you, we were a proud princely state. The rulers were Muslim. But the person who used to put the ruler on the throne, used to put the crown on his head, was a Hindu Brahmin. There was no mufti or imam who used to do who did the coronation of the Nawab. It was always a Brahmin. You know, this was the secularism. Every member of our family, as per the custom, not as per the religion, had a Janam Patri, which even we follow even to this day. You know, this was the essence of royalties. And I must say that, you know, during my father's time and, you know, seen many political parties, seen many leaders. But today, this is my personal opinion. It's not that I'm endorsing a particular political leader or endorsing a political party. But I think the Modi government today has given us the respect, the former royal fraternity, that respect which we deserve, which we never got from any of the past governments.
Okay. In what way would you say that?
I'll tell you. So our chief ministers, Yogi Adityanath ji, I'm not a member of the BJP. You know, I've been in other political parties, never in the BJP. Whenever he comes to Rampur, can be for an election rally, can be for a party, you know, meeting or whatever. Before he starts his political speech, he says, I am proud to be standing on the soil of Rampur, where the royal family of Rampur has contributed to a great extent to the heritage of India. And anybody who tries to destroy that heritage will be my personal enemy. No political leader I've seen over the years, no one has ever said it. So if somebody is nice, gives us this respect, I think it works both ways.
Of course.
I support him totally, you know, on a personal level. I'm totally with. And similarly, I realized it was in Rajkot in Gujarat. So the former head of the princely state there was a very senior Congress politician and a senior Congress minister called Manohar Singh Jadeja. When he passed away, so like in every Indian family, you know, you have a succession, father to son, you know, which is a very private ceremony where you know, the members of the royal family are there and the nobles of that former princely state are there and the former royal fraternity is there. So it's a very private function. But Prime Minister Modi sent his chief minister and his cabinet ministers for that ceremony. You know? I think for me, it was something which was very emotional. And I'd never, we never, after India got independence and democracy came and, you know, our privy purses and privileges and all the promises that were made by the then government of India were taken away. And
not honored.
yeah, all princely state had that. And then a lot of us, a lot of the former princes got into politics because, you see, rulers didn't have any, they were not businessmen, they had no profession. So the closest lifestyle to their lifestyle was politics, where subjects became voters and interaction with the people, with the common man was on the same level. So that's how a lot of princes joined politics. And over the years, I think this is the first time this happened. About must be 2-3 years ago, and I was very touched. So I think they have the current government has actually given us that respect, which we deserve.
And do you think there are any steps that the government can take to actually improvise on certain aspects?
But that's totally their call, because they have to look in the, they have a lot of things which they need to look into. There are a lot of issues, there are political issues. There should not be any repercussions. There should not, they have to, it's a very complex area.
And what are your views on Sir Sambal? What's happened in Sambal recently?
See,
and how the government is actually
I'll tell you, number one, handling such issues in a smaller country is easier. But a country like India, which is culturally multi-diverse, it's difficult to keep everybody happy. That is there. This issue, again, it's political in the sense that not on the national level or the state level, but on the district level.
Okay.
When there are people in politics, you have your political rivals. So one political rival may belong to one community, one may belong to the second community. And then they have issues like, I'll give you an example. When I won my election, my second election from Swar. So during the election, of course, supporters of one political parties, they go, they talk against the candidate of the other party. So there were some BJP supporters, in my constituency who were, who said, negative things and things like that. My supporters didn't like it, so they said something else, and they said, so this went on to the extent that one of the supporters from my supporters, he kind of, so when you get angry, a lot of things come out of your mouth, which you don't actually mean, but it's on the spur of the moment, it's just to show your anger. He said something, and then the other person also said, okay, I'll take my revenge, things like that. Election gets over. The Swar Tanda constituency has about 68% Muslims, and the remaining are from other community. So, 11-year-old boy was found dead by the river. 11 boy. Members of his family said, oh, the political rivals, he said that he will take revenge. He must have killed him. The SP of SP Rampur at that time was a Dalit SP. And so, since it was all Muslims there, and they came onto the roads and they said, we'll burn the houses of the other community and we'll do this and we'll do that. So SP told me, he said, you've just become MA, please go there and control the situation. So I went. And when you are on that high, you don't reason out, if I'll say something, they're not going to listen to me.
Yeah.
So with great difficulty, there was a madrasa there. And I told all of them, I said, you come to the madrasa. Let's talk there, not on the road. There were thousands of people, thousands. This was in the year 2002, 22 years ago. So I got the Maulanas and I got everybody and we sat there. It was like a few days ago I had won. I didn't understand what the local issues are, the local, equations are. So I told all of them, I said, in all fairness, you give me 3 days. I'll find out the killer of this boy. And if I can't, then you do what you want to do. I will not stop you. Okay? Ye to maine keh diya. And then they kind of dispersed off. And I felt to myself, I said, now how am I going to do it? So then I went and spoke to the SP. We got a dog squad from Bareilly, and everybody got on to that. And you will not believe it. Before the third day, we found out the killer. The killer of that boy was his real mama. Because of business issues, because there are a lot of rice manufacturers there. He said he killed this boy and said that, the people from the other community have done it. That's how we found out, and that's how we controlled the situation. Okay. So there is every situation which can be controlled. So what the eye sees is not really the reality. Also, it varies from time to time, from place to place, from region to region.
Of course.
It's like that. I feel hurt when these things come up. See, history is something you cannot remove. Islam is the newest religion. Before Islam, it was Christianity. Before Christianity, it was Judaism. And Hinduism, a very old religion. So what was there before and before that and before that? You cannot blame anybody for that.
Absolutely.
In those days, what happened, how wars were fought, how governance was done, we don't know anything about it. It was as per that time. But you cannot correlate the two. कि उस ज़माने में ये हुआ और वो गलत था और ये सच था. That is the thing.
So, sir, continuing with that, what do you feel, or rather, what are your feelings with your father being the last crown prince of Rampur? The vilification of Muslims and of
So
Mughals
actually,
in the
my
current
grandfather was the last Nawab, the last recognized Nawab by the government of India, Nawab Raza Ali Khan. He merged the state of Rampur. We were the first state to merge with the Union of India. And after he passed in 1966, then there was no Gaddi, there was no Riyasat, there was nothing. So then it was just a family affair, that who will be the next. But there was no throne. And then everything was governed as per the Muslim Sharia law, where, girls get a single share, boys get a double share. So all boys were treated equally, they inherited equally as per our law. Okay. This is what happened.
And how do you feel about the current vilification of Mughals and Muslims in general? Do you feel that it is justified? And do you feel it is fair? What are your views on it?
The Mughals, see, my mother is a Mughal. So her family came from Andijan. So basically there were these three communities which entered India. The Sayyids came from Iran, the Pakhtuns came from Afghanistan, and the Mughals came from Uzbekistan. And as they came, that is how Islam came into India. And then the conversions happened, whether for the good, for the bad. I'm not going to, advocate either of the two. Wo zamane mein hua. But so my father's family were Pakhtuns who came from Kandahar. And they entered India in 1704, Mughal India. Border of Afghanistan and Mughal India at that time was a place which is about 5 kilometers ahead of Peshawar, where they made a gate called Bab-e-Khaybar, which is still there. And I am fortunate to have gone and seen that gate a couple of years ago. They came. The Mughals entered. So our family, my mother's family, which later became the princely state of Loharu, they had come with Babur. There was a family of 3 brothers who came with Babur. And the first settlement from Uzbekistan into Mughal India was a place called Firozpur Jhirka, which is between Gurgaon and Alwar. Okay. That was their first habitation, So this is how it happened. Okay. But I think I'm not right in a position to comment whether it was good, bad, what happened. There's nobody who can give an accurate justification of what happened in that period.
But do you think that's a narrative that is being spread in the past, say, decade, where specifically Mughals are being vilified? Do you think that that is justified? With the
Khiljis
movies-
were there, Tughlaqs were there were so many. Chinggis Khan was there, Ertugrul was there. So, like, you know, from most of the conquerors came from Central Asia. For instance, Ertugrul, the Turkmens who came down south, one unit moved west towards Europe and one unit moved east towards India. The ones who went to west are the ones who laid the foundations for the Ottoman Empire. You know, the ones who came to east one of them was Razia Sultan, the only woman who ruled Delhi. Altamash, Altunia. So they were all these. Then there were people from Nadir Shah from Persia. So they came from all over the place. I mean, Mughals, I think everybody's targeting because they stayed here for the maximum time. Few generations, you know, they were here. Others came and left, you know. But the Mughals had the entire empire here. You know. Probably that's the reason it's happening.
And so, what are your views on the women reservation bill? 33% reservation in the parliament.
So, I think as per the social structure of India, the reservation is a very good step. Not in urban areas. And, you know, say 20 or 30 years ago, and now things have changed for the better. But women in 70% of the people represent rural India. And in the rural India, women get marginalized. That's true. So I think it's a good move. I feel it's a good move.
All right. So how do you view the current role of the current law and order in UP? Do you think
it's good?
You think it's better than the previous
It's
years?
good. I'll tell you. Rampur, let's start off with my home first, you know. So Rampur district has an equal population of Hindus and Muslims, more or less equal. Since the Yogi government came in 2017 till to this day, no mosque was broken, no madrasa was damaged, no Muslim's house was pulled down, no Muslim's farmland was snatched, no fake criminal case against any Muslim was registered. Nothing of this happened till to this.
And do you think previously it was different?
In the Akhilesh government, in the Samajwadi government, I'm saying Akhilesh government because he was the chief minister. But his local representative called Azam did everything against the Muslims of Rampur. All that has not been done in the Yogi's government was done in Azam's government.
And do you think what was the reason behind that?
Insecurity, I think. And he's facing, so you see what goes around comes around. If you are up there, you have to come down. That is the cycle, you know, of the world, of life. You have to come around. And you pay for your sins in this life, not when you go up there. You pay right now. And that's what he's paying today. He, his wife, and his son. All three of them.
With someone with a legacy tied to politics and a rich cultural heritage, how do you sort of navigate the challenges surrounding it and balancing politics and your family legacy?
See, it is a challenge, you know. So, you cannot expect the common man to come to your level. You have to come down to the level of the common man. Your wavelength, you have to come down, you know, and relate to the common man. That is a challenge. Now it is easier because a lot of from the royal fraternity or from houses which have a long-lasting legacy, historical legacy. A lot of us were in public schools, you know, so it's not that much of a problem. I think the generations before us, it was a challenge for them. The generation after us is no challenge at all. You know,
Why do you say there's no challenge at all?
there's no challenge at all because the social structure has totally diluted. I mean, for the better, I think for the better. Because now everybody's on the same level. There's no
In terms of
somebody.
opportunities?
Yeah,
Okay.
it has diluted. Of course, now you see in today's world, what is an addiction? Is power, nothing else, and that is a lethal addiction. And I think everybody goes for that. That's why a lot of people get into politics because they feel that politics is the best way
Easiest way to get
to
power.
get into power.
And what have been your lessons? You've had a long career in politics. What have been your biggest lessons that you'd say, or the key takeaways that
I'm human. I made a lot of mistakes myself. I'm not saying that whatever I did was perfect and everything was right and correct. I made a lot of mistakes and I learned from those mistakes. And you see, you cannot force yourself onto anyone. When I felt that it was time for me to back off, I backed off. I can't force myself that, I have to represent you. I have to be elected. I have to do this. I cannot. And you get that feel, It's very easy. So when I got that feel, then I kind of backed off. And I said, let somebody else take over.
Was there any such particular instance where you felt that, okay, now it's time that I...
See, losing and winning elections is not really a criteria. The prime ministers have won and the prime ministers have lost. So it's not losing. But I at least get a feel from the public. The people love me a lot. I'll give you an example. So earlier when I was in politics, I represented a particular political party and I used to go to weddings, attend local weddings or local functions. So there was a bit of a hesitation. So, of course, people who are associated with my party, for instance, they used to say, come, okay, let's have pictures together, taking selfies, this, that. But the ones who didn't, they were hesitant. They never used to come to me, maybe the political leaders will see pictures and then they'll have a problem and things like that. That happened when I was in politics. Now, when I go into wedding, it's open. Nobody has any hesitation. They all come, they're taking pictures, they're inviting me for lunches, for dinners, because I don't represent any political party. I'm like for everybody. But when you're in politics, you're not there for everybody. The minute you decide to enter politics, you have enemies who you don't even know about.
Of course.
You don't even know who your enemies are, and you have enemies. And the point you leave politics, you have friends who you don't even know about, they're all your friends. It's like that. So I'm very happy in the current, in my current situation right now. And I'm enjoying, my life now is very good.
Do you have any plans to enter active politics again? Anytime?
So one can't predict of the future because you don't know what circumstances are created.
Of course.
What can happen in future, we don't. But as of now, I'm very happy.
You're content.
I was very passionate about aviation. When I was in my 20s, there was a law that you had to be a graduate to get into aviation school, a flight school. Now, of course, things have become easier. Now you get into it after your 12th grade. And I said, well, it's one life to live. And I should do what I always passionate about. So I wanted to get into a flight school in India. But the law states that you have to have a 10th grade mark sheet to get it, to get into, get in. I did my 10th grade 46 years ago. And those days it was a piece of paper. I don't know where it is. And CBSE board we were the second batch of +2.
Interesting.
1980. 79 was the first batch. Before that, it was senior Cambridge and, So CBSE board only has a record of 35. So where do I get it from? So then a very dear friend of mine was the previous ambassador of Egypt to India. He's back in Cairo now. He said, "You do it in my country." I said, "But there's Arabic." "I don't know Arabic." He said, "No, we have English as well." So then I approached the Egyptian Aviation Academy, and I went, and they were so friendly. Air India pilots used to get trained there in the 70s, So I'm very happy that I'm flying, I'm doing things which I want to do. And I don't think I will compromise that
Anytime
on
soon.
anything.
Sir, what in your view are the three most significant challenges being faced by India today?
So there are like three, I think there are three diameters. One is our subcontinent, one is our continent, and one is the global reach. Within our subcontinent, I think we are doing pretty well because our economy compared to our neighboring countries, there's no comparison. Considering the size of our country, considering the political challenges, considering the social challenges, I think we are doing very well. It's very good. And the neighboring countries, and they themselves admit that India has reached a position where, in that short time, where it was very difficult to get to. Within Asia, I think again we have political issues with China, which has been there since I was a child. There was a war and everything, and that thing has gone. That again is because of competition, economic competition. So that thing I think will stay. But other than that, I think Indian economy is doing pretty well.
Do you think there's some issues that we must look into? Challenges
So
that are going to be rising?
see, I'll tell you. For instance, let's talk about some foreign policies. So it's very unfortunate that Russia and Ukraine have had this war. And aggression is not justified in any context, You cannot invade a national border of any country. That is not justified, but I feel regarding India's stand. So India wants what I read in the papers and what I talk to, political people, So I feel that everybody wants this. There has to be some form of a compromise. There has to be a settlement. For us to take sides is very difficult. You see, you remember the war in 1971 when Bangladesh was being created. Most superpowers were against us. The only country which supported India at that time was the USSR, was the Soviet Union. Okay. Had it not been for the Soviet Union or the Soviet presence in the Bay of Bengal, the American fleet was all set to stop the independence of Bangladesh. We were there on the land, that is there. But the Soviet Union was our very strong supporter. And both Russia and Ukraine were part of that Soviet Union. There were Ukrainian soldiers on that fleet. There were Russian soldiers on that fleet. How do you expect India to take sides? That is one example what I can think of. Similarly, so I think our foreign policy is, you cannot override your supporters from the past. When you needed them, they were there to support you. You cannot forget that. And I think what India's stand is today is the right stand.
Okay, so you think that there's nothing that the government can do better in larger areas, maybe education or electoral reforms?
No, education, infrastructure is great. From Delhi to Rampur used to take me 5 hours, 6 hours. Now it takes me 2.5 hours. And door to door is 2 hours sometimes.
True.
I think the Minister Gadkari has done a great job. And the airports like everywhere.
True.
There's an airport 8 kilometers from my house in Rampur. What could I ask for better than that? By road, it takes me about 6 hours to reach Lucknow. It takes me an hour and 15 minutes to fly to Lucknow.
So you believe in
And the
India?
fare is just 1,300 rupees one way.
So I
I
can
couldn't
gather.
ask for anything better,
All right. So you're a firm believer in India's growth story
Yeah,
with the
I
current
think,
government.
yes, totally,
Okay.
totally.
Do you believe that India's electoral system requires reforms? Do you think that we can do anything better in that regard? And also, how do you think is corruption? Do you think that in terms of Rampur, if you look at it, or India as in total, do you think that enough is being done to sort of curb corruption? And do you think more can be done in that regard?
So let's come to the electoral system first. So electoral system was the foundation was when India became a democracy. You know, at that point of time, the system which started is kind of now it doesn't work today. You know, anything you cannot say what happened in the 50s is absolutely right today. It's not possible. It started off with the ballot system, then came the EVMs. There were faults in the ballot system and there are faults in the EVM. So no system is 100% foolproof. It can be closer to being foolproof, but it's not 100% foolproof. The intentions are that it should be just and, everything should be the right way. But everything has gray areas, which you have to look into. So that is one thing. And for me, an individual like me, I will never be 100% satisfied with anything around me. I'll always find there's something missing, something lacking, but it's not 100% perfect. Nothing is perfect today.
Of course.
That goes for the electoral system too. No, so that is one part of it. The second question was?
Also corruption. How do you think?
So corruption, it didn't start in 2024. It didn't start in, I think corruption has been there over the
course of...
Of course, the levels were smaller then. The levels are larger now. But corruption has always been present. And not just India, it's been in every country of this world. Some countries it starts on a higher level. Some countries it starts from the ground level. That is the difference. Corruption is there, and I don't think it's possible to get for any country to get corruption 100% out of the system. It's not possible because it's reached to that level.
Do you think it's going to only increase further, or can something be done to sort of curb it? For example, so you have a lot of members of the parliament and a lot of politicians who actually have tainted backgrounds. Do you think there should be some reforms that maybe people who have a criminal background or a criminal record should be not allowed to contest elections or something?
So there was, I believe so, a few years ago, they were tabling a bill which said that if you have criminal cases, not accused, but convicted. Convictions, then you cannot, I think that's right. If you're convicted of a crime, till you are cleared of that crime, you cannot represent any office or you cannot represent the people of any constituency. That's fine.
But don't you think, sir, that a lot of times it's being used as a weapon? Basically, that a lot of cases would be filed against a particular candidate just out of...
So the intentions are good, but I think the gray areas you always exploit. Everyone tends to exploit that.
True.
For instance, you had the dowry bill. The intentions were very good, but it is always. But more than the good part, now it's being used to, it's become a business in society today. The dowry. So I think today any kind of cases that are registered under this bill, I think most of them are false. It's like extracting money out of the other party or, harassing them or pressurizing them. It's like that. The intention for the bill was very good, but it's always kind of, that's been exploited in a very different way.
Do you think that most of such cases are frivolous, or there would be a few? Because how do you
No,
actually
but
decide?
investigations are done, but who are the investigating
Absolutely.
agencies?
We don't have
It depends
enough-
on the individual who's investigating the case.
Absolutely. And we all know how that works.
What his social condition or what his family condition is, how much can he resist temptation? Depends on
Correct.
that too.
Absolutely. So, what are your views on India bloc?
Well, I think it's important to have opposition, and when you create something like the India bloc, then the leaders involved in the India bloc have to be on the same page without a personal agenda.
Do you think that's
Then the
possible?
agenda has to be a larger agenda for a common cause and the intention you've created that bloc for.
Mhm.
You cannot have a personal agenda. If you have a personal agenda, any leader who has a personal agenda, then that bloc can never work.
But do you think that that is even possible in the given circumstances?
But you can try. I mean, there's no problem that doesn't have a solution in this world. Every problem has a solution, but you should have the courage and you should have the intention of creating a solution.
Do you think that the current India bloc has that? What are your personal views on it?
I cannot comment on that because, again, some leaders I know, and probably some couple of leaders have good intentions, and I don't know about the others, what their agendas are. And but opposition is important, I mean, an effective opposition. That's
and do you think the India bloc can provide that
so
effectively?
any government will always, whichever government is there in power, when bills are introduced, because they have a majority in parliament, in both the houses, the bills will be passed. But it's healthy to have a political debate.
Of course.
I can raise my viewpoint, you can raise your viewpoint. Eventually, of course, because of the majority in the house, the bill becomes law. That's okay. But you can discuss it. And parliament does discuss it. That's good.
Okay.
Whether it's a provincial legislative assembly or whether it's a federal parliament, political debates are very healthy and they should be there. It's happening on the federal level. Some provinces, it doesn't happen. But I think in the past, it didn't happen. But now it happens practically everywhere.
And so what do you think about one nation, one election? Are you in favor or not so much?
Well, one nation, one election is good. Because otherwise, people are being faced with elections like every 5 months. And that goes on the paycheck, the taxpayers, because elections are expensive. Your government machinery is involved. Government schools are shut because they become polling booths. The teachers, all the teachers who should be spending their time, for the benefit of the children, they are preparing voters lists and they are preparing, doing all this kind of stuff. So that is a waste. That's a waste of time, energy, money, mostly money, because the taxpayers pay for it every election. So, I mean, you can start now, but it'll take a few years for it to actually happen that way. But at least start now, Like 3 states are going to election in 4 months, and another 2 states are going another 5-6 months. So the government machinery is totally involved, in these elections, voter IDs and voter cards and registration of voters and, cancellation on fake names in the voter list. It's a big, it's an ordeal doing all this.
So you believe...
it's a good concept. I think it's a good concept.
There's work that needs to be done, but you think
to be done, it'll take a few years for it to happen. But you have to start now. Like if the states going like 3 months from each other, then just club them together. Those things can be
To
done.
make it smoother, basically.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure having me.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode with Naved Mia, then please follow, like, and subscribe. Thank you.